This week's Parsha is Parshas Vayeshev. In Parshas Vayeshev, we have the heart-rending story of the sale of Yosef. Yaakov had 12 sons. His second to youngest son, Yosef, was favored by him. There was a special connection between Yaakov and Yosef, and in Yosef, Yaakov saw his life. Commentators explain that Yaakov knew that Yosef would be faced with similar trials, and Yosef's strengths and weaknesses were similar to that of Yaakov. Because of that, there was a special affinity between the two of them. This caused jealousy from the brothers, and therefore the brothers schemed to sell Yosef. Originally, actually, the brothers planned to kill Yosef. They had various halachic rationalizations for this. Of course, people on the level of the 12 tribes would have never killed someone just because out of simple jealousy. And therefore, they decided with great forethought that Yosef was deserving of the death penalty for whatever reasons, which is not our subject tonight. Interestingly, the brothers decide to kill Yosef. Then they decide, you know what, let's not kill Yosef, let's throw him in the pit, because we don't want to actually kill him with our own hands. And then they change their minds again, and they decide to sell him to the passing Ishmaelim. The Torah indicates that the contents of the cargo of the Ishmaelim who bought Yosef as a slave contained spices, sweet-smelling spices. And it's interesting that the Torah would take the time to say what type of cargo the caravan that happened to carry Yosef as a slave, which bought Yosef as a slave, would be carrying. And the question is very simple. Why would the Torah, which is so sparing when it comes to using words, tell us that the cargo that the Ishmaelim were holding was sweet-smelling spices? So from here, the commentators learn a very important lesson. Imagine Yosef. Yosef just had two dreams which indicated to him that he would be a leader, that he would lead people, that he would be in a position of importance, and he would be amongst his family as the leader of his family. And now, almost immediately after he had those dreams, he's being sold as a slave, banished from his family, despised by his brothers, never in his mind to even see his family again, his precious father, his mother. How do you think he felt? Well, obviously a person in that type of situation would feel that everything is hopeless. My life is going to be endless misfortune, and there's no point in trusting and having faith in Hashem. Now, we all go through these times in our life when we feel that it's all over. Hashem obviously doesn't like us, and everything seems to be going the wrong way. But there's always a glimmer of hope. Now, how do we see that glimmer of hope? That's the sweet-smelling spices. Even in the most trying circumstances, there's always something where you can see Hashem's hand, and to you, it will seem like Hashem is doing good. Even though 90% of the things that happen to you at a certain point in time are bad in your mind, even though, of course, they're ultimately good, Hashem always sends a little tidbit, a little shmek, a little smell of hope, of something that you see Hashem's hand is still carrying you tenderly through your life. That's what happened with Yosef. Yosef, thinking he'd be a leader, was now sold into slavery, dashed his hope of any glimmer of hope that he would be a leader. But when he goes into the caravan of the Ishmaelim, he smells sweet smells. The commentators further note that the Ishmaelim usually held foul-smelling odor things in their cargo. They sold resin, that was their primary marketable item, But this time, for some reason, the Ishmaelim specifically had sweet-smelling spices. Hashem was sending Yosef a message. Yosef, don't lose hope. What's happening over here is all in the hands of Hashem, and Hashem still loves you and He cares for you, and this is all part of His master plan. This story of Yosef, of an initial feeling of a destiny to be exalted, to be a leader, and then a dashing of those hopes, and a subsequent slight glimmer, a little breadcrumb of goodness from Hashem, is very similar to Chanukah. In the story of Chanukah, the Jewish people fought the Greeks, who threatened the way they practiced Judaism. The Greeks wanted the Jewish people to become like the Greeks, to join their culture and to abandon their heritage. The Jewish people fought physically, fought a war with the Greeks, and they won. They enter the temple jubilantly, looking forward to performing the various services in the temple, and lo and behold, not one flask of oil can be found. Until one flask of oil is found. And that flask of oil, even though it should have lasted only one day, lasts 8 days. This story is very similar to the plot of Yosef. The Jewish people were initially encountered with a feeling of elation from destroying the Greeks, throwing them out of their land, and being able to practice their heritage once more. Imagine the way they felt when they entered the temple and could not perform the holiest task, one of the holiest tasks in the temple, because of lack of oil. They couldn't believe it. Just a minute ago, it seemed like Hashem was on their side, and now they can't even find enough oil to last 8 days. But there was a glimmer of hope. There was a breadcrumb of salvation, and that was the one flask of oil. All the Jewish people had to do was exercise faith that they're going to do that flask of oil no matter how long it lasts, and Hashem performed the miracle that one flask of oil lasted 8 days. This message is very pertinent for everybody in their lives. There are times when it seems like Hashem has turned away from us, which of course isn't true, but we have to look carefully at what's going on in our lives and see Hashem's tender hand still there. Everything Hashem does is for the good, but sometimes it's very hard to see. Have a happy Chanukah, have a good Shabbos,